One of the biggest advantages of Lightroom is the ability to access lots of camera raw files immediately using the catalog system. This really saves a lot of time, as you can keep thousands of photos open at the same time, and you can even edit them simultaneously. The way you can find these photos is by using the catalog system, and that is essentially the library module. So here on the left in the folders you can see I have 127 photos in different folders. But if I want to, I can always click on all photographs and I can see all the images imported into my catalog. Similar to InDesign, Lightroom just links to these files. So the original files, the camera raw files, are not stored in the actual catalog, they are just linked to it. So that makes it really fast. We will only have a link to these files. And the catalog file itself, let me just show you how it looks like, is the LRCAT Lightroom catalog file format, and the LR data. These are the probably important files that makes up the whole catalog, and also the previews. So for now, this catalog, I have 127 high resolution camera raw files, and for this the whole catalog itself is around 100 megabytes. So that is separate from the camera raw files themselves, which I keep in the photos folder, and there are several files here, as you can see. So that whole system makes it very easy to quickly access files and to edit them as well. Plus, if you use the Adobe native camera raw format called the digital negative, DNG, then you can even use an additional feature which will make it even faster to access your files. And that's something you can set up under the preferences, file handling, and that's the option called embed fast load data. So if you see this option and you check it, and then whenever you create DNG files, these files will load even faster. Only the file size will increase slightly, but it will make it faster to load in Lightroom. Another big advantage of Lightroom is the several ways of being able to add keywords to our photos. If you are a photographer, I'm sure you know how important it is to use keywords. So the ease of doing this and the time that can be saved by adding them very quickly and easily is essential for every photographer. So to be able to add these keywords, we will need two of the panels here on the right, mainly the keywording panel and the keyword list. The keyword list is like a database of all the keywords that we assigned or used in a catalog, while in the keywording area we can create new ones, or we can also quickly reuse ones that we already used before. So if I have an image like this one here, I can add some keywords to it, but as you can see, it already shows me the assigned keywords: architecture, castle, and clouds. If I want to add another one, I can just simply type in Germany, for example, if I want to name the place where I took this photo. And I can also add new keywords very easily from the keyword suggestions, but I can also access that by holding down Alt and using these keywords here from the keyword set. Now there are some default keyword sets, but you can create your own ones as well, so you can always edit the keyword sets. And here you can also create new ones, so save current settings as a new preset. And then you will have 9 keywords which you can access very easily if you hold down Alt and press one of these numbers. So for example, if I want to add fall, because it was in autumn when I took this photo, I can just hold down Alt and press 1, and that immediately adds that keyword. Once I add the keyword, it will show up in the keyword list, and I can see that there's one image in this catalog assigned with this keyword. And if I want to see that image, I can click on this little arrow here on the right, which will quickly filter out all my catalog and show those images that have that keyword. But that's not all, because we have also another tool that we can use for adding keywords. Let me just go back to no filtering now, and I'm going to just use this tool here. That's the painter tool. So I select it, and I can add the keyword, and maybe I just add girl, enter, and then using this painter tool I can click on images where I can see a girl. So I'm just going down, I have a look at here, yeah, there's another one, and so on and so forth. So this is another great way of adding keywords, and of course with this tool you can add even more keywords at the same time. Of course, if you have several images selected and you add the keyword here in the keyword tagging area, you can also do that and assign several keywords at the same time. These little icons here on the images will show you if a photo has keywords or not. Another cool thing that you can do directly in Lightroom is to add geo-tagging to your photographs using Google Maps. All you need to do is to click on the map module and then drag and drop your images onto the map. Of course, if you have a GPS device in your camera, then you don't have to do this, because you will automatically have all the images laid out on the map based on the recorded data. But if you don't have that, then you can do it manually. And let me just show you how it works. So if I go to the Canary Islands, I will find the area where I was. I can also type it in, of course. So if I just type in Teide, that's the volcano in Tenerife, in Canary Islands. And this photo here, if I just show it to you again, if I go back to develop, that's the volcano itself. And I took this from the southern part of the island. So it's somewhere, probably I was around here on this road. So if I drag and drop this there, then I will be able to place this exactly or very close to where I took the photo, and that immediately generates the GPS data. If I take more pictures in the same area, I can drop it onto the same tag and then it will mix the two together, or I can place another one, and I know I took this one somewhere here, and then I took another photo somewhere in the Playa de las Americas, somewhere there. So I placed all these images, and whenever I hover over one, I can see what is in that geotag or that location. The advantage of this is not just to simply have these images placed on the map and having a way of finding them using the map, but also it will write the information in the metadata of these files. So in this case, I already have the country, the state, and the city visible here, and even the country code. So I don't have to do anything. It's automatically written into the metadata based on the GPS information. That means if I go back to the library and I go to attribute, or sorry, metadata, and choose, instead of date, I just choose country, for example, then I can see I have 3 images in Spain, thanks to my geotagging in Google Maps in the map module in Lightroom. There's another thing in Lightroom that you will find very useful whenever you want to make changes to your images, and that is the on-image editing option. But let me give you a quick demonstration. What if I want to get rid of all the green colors in this image, and maybe even the blue colors, and just emphasize the red colors of the bridge? I can go to the HSL color black and white panel, and I have to choose HSL, and under that also choose saturation. But also there's a tool here, and that is the on-image editing tool, this little icon here. Once I select that, I can hover over any part of the image, and because I'm in saturation mode, I will modify the saturation of selected colors. By clicking on a color and dragging it down, I can remove that color from the image, so reducing the saturation of greens in this case. If I drag it up, I can increase the saturation of the selected colors. And you can see that happening on the right. While I'm dragging up and down on the image, you can see the green moving on the right. But it's not just green, it also slightly changes the yellows as well. So it's much better than doing it manually with these values here on the right. It's much easier to just simply use this tool. I can click on the blue sky, drag that down as well, and then I can maybe try to get rid of the color of the building in the background, but then still have the colors of the bridge. I just drag those up again. So you can see how easy it is to use the on-image editing, and you can use the same thing for hues as well. So if I now selected hue and I click on the bridge, I can change the color of the bridge as well, just as easily as I changed the saturation in the image. Unlike Photoshop, in Lightroom, you will never have to save anything. And you even have your history automatically saved, not just the changes that you do to any of your photographs. And remember, it's not just one photograph, you are working with hundreds or thousands of photographs, and thanks to the Lightroom catalog system, everything will be stored, all your changes, and you will even be able to go back to the history to see whatever you've done to all your photographs. So let me again give you a quick demonstration. Here's this photo, and first of all I would like to straighten it. So I'm going to use the straighten tool from the crop tool, and I'm going to straighten it based on the bridge here. So that's much better already. Then I'm going to add a little bit more warmer temperature, but we can also use the white balance tool. Actually, it was a cloudy day, so probably I just have to add a little bit of fake sunlight. And then I'm going to add a bit more vibrance on the image. Also, I would like to have a bit darker sky, so I'm going to reduce the temperature and the exposure slightly and use the graduated filter, drag from the top down. Now that it's darker, I can see there's a couple of spots on the image. I had some dust in my lens or sensor, so I can just quickly click on these. You probably see more than me, but that will be enough for now. And then I would like to also increase the clarity a little bit on this image, something like that. Maybe increase shadows slightly, reduce highlights slightly, and then maybe add a little bit of vignetting on the corners, which is under the effects panel here. So reduce that, and that will darken the corners a little bit even more. So that's all I wanted to add to this image, and as you can see, all these changes that I did are all saved in my history. I can see all the values as well. Plus, if I open the navigator, where I can see a little preview of my image, I can see the changes update automatically whenever I hover over them with my mouse from the history. So I can see step by step what I've done here from the history. It's like a little presentation or like a slideshow. If I want to, I can always go back to a previous step very easily by selecting it from the history, or I can go back to the edited version, the final edited version, if I click on the top of the history panel. So remember, this is automatically saved. So if I close Lightroom now and I come back, I will see exactly the same results, and I will see the history as well the way it is. There's no way of saving the history for a PSD file in Photoshop, but it is something that's by default Lightroom has. Another great feature in Lightroom is the way of seeing the before and after versions of an editing of a photograph on the same image by splitting it into half. Let me show you how that works by adding some changes to this photo here. So first of all, I would probably rotate the image around a bit, something like that. And then I'm going to add more clarity. In this case, I can make it look very edgy. I add a bit more vibrance as well, increase the shadows to see a bit more detail, reduce the highlights, and that will be enough just to see what we achieved. So from the before and after views, we can choose 4 different ones. Let me just choose this one, the first one, when we see side by side the 2 results. Now, I intentionally used cropping because cropping is something that you won't see the before version of it, because Lightroom wants to make sure that you can easily match the 2 images. And if you use the big cropping or straightening of your photograph, then you might see completely different composition on the left and the right. So cropping is something that you won't be able to compare with this view, but for that you can use another feature which I'm going to talk about, and that is the virtual copy. But let's just concentrate on the before and after view for now. So this is how we see them side by side, and I can click on the image to zoom closer to have a closer look at the details and how they look now after the changes. But if I want to, I can even see the changes and the before version in one image by splitting it into half as the second option, before after left right split. So once I choose that, now I can really have a closer look how the changes will affect the image. And just to make this more dramatic, I'm going to press V, which will turn the image into black and white, and then we can see it even better, the before and after version side by side, but using the same photograph and splitting it into half. Filtering your catalog is the fastest way to search and find whatever you are looking for in Lightroom. It's definitely the best method because here you can find so many ways of identifying the things that you are looking for. You can open this by using View, Show Filter Bar, or use the keyboard shortcut here, the backslash. And when you have that on, you will see the library filter here on the top. You will have to be in the library module though. When it's turned off, then it will just say simply none. But then there's 3 main ways of filtering your photographs in Lightroom based on text, attribute, or metadata. If you choose text, that's similar to like simply searching for specific things. You can choose any searchable field to be searched, or you can specify file name, copy name, title, caption, keywords, and so on and so forth. You can then choose attribute and use all of these attributes and use that to search for images. So in Lightroom you have star ratings, you have color labels, you have kinds of images like the original or master photos, virtual copies, and video files. And then you also have flags, and you can also specify and add more of these at the same time. So for example, if I have 2 5-star images, but one of them has a green label as well, I use keyboard shortcuts to add these quickly. 5 for adding 5-star and 8 for adding the green label. So now if I click on 5-star, I will see immediately these 2 images. But if I add green as well, then I will only see the 5-star green labeled photographs in my catalog. So you can see how easy it is to use attributes. But then we can click on none to get rid of this filtering and go to metadata, which is my favorite place to filter for images, because here you have 4 columns in which you can specify what you are looking for. So for example, if I'm looking for a specific camera that I use to take the pictures, and I remember that was a Nikon D40X, I can already filter out and see only 56 images out of my 127 in this catalog. And then the second one, the second filtering step could be which lens did I use. And if I remember that that was a zoom lens, then I can select that one, and I can now see 2 of these photos, and out of these 2 I can easily choose whichever I was looking for. But if that's still not enough, then you can always continue fine-tuning your filtering by using the 3rd and the 4th columns of the library filter panel. Whenever you have a photograph in Lightroom and you're not sure what would be the best way of editing it, then you can use virtual copies, which won't duplicate the master photograph, the original file on your computer, but it will save two different set of changes, and it will show it as if there were two separate photographs on your computer. But the reason why it's called virtual copy is because it's just simply a set of changes and not by duplicating the original file itself. So let me show you how that works. So here in this case, first of all, I would like to get rid of the spot, the dust here on the sky, like that. And maybe I will also get rid of this red jacket here in the corner. And that's a great new feature in Lightroom 5, that we can not only click with the spot removal tool, but also click and drag to create a whole area which should be retouched like that. And then I am going to increase the vibrance, the shadows, to see more details of the two people in the image, maybe even the exposure a little bit, and then add a lot of clarity on it. And then I will just use again the spot removal tool here on the sky. So that's one version of my editing, but I'm going to do another version by right-clicking on the image and clicking on Create Virtual Copy. I will have a second version, and I can take it further from here. And first of all, I'm going to turn it to black and white by pressing V. I do that quickly, and I'm going to exaggerate the clarity and also all the other values here. So I'm going to reduce highlights, do something like that. Just check. I think we might need to use a little bit of graduated filter on the sky. So I'm going to darken the sky here on the top, something like that. Yeah, that will work. And then I'm going to also increase the overall exposure of the image, and then go down to effects and reduce the post-crop vignetting. Do something like this. So that's two versions, and maybe I can even add a sepia effect on it. If I go to the split toning and I increase highlights and shadows and add saturation to them, and then I just need to fine-tune these colors. Obviously too much saturation on both of them, so I just reduce them. Do something like this. So now I have two very different editing, and I can have a look at them side by side. If I press Command or Control and click on the other one, and then press N for the survey mode, where I can see them side by side. And the way Lightroom tells me that there's a virtual copy is by having this little fold here on the virtual copy version. So that's the master image and that's the copy. And when I'm in filtering, I can go back to library and choose attribute. Here I can quickly find virtual copies. If I first of all click on none, or let's just get rid of these filterings, and I click on the virtual copy icon here on the right, then I will immediately find if I used virtual copies in a catalog. So this feature does not only save time, but also space on your computer, because without duplicating the file, you can have as many versions of edits as you want. Lightroom can be used to edit videos as well, not just photographs. And it might look difficult to do that, because whenever you go to the develop module, where you usually edit your photos, it will say video is not supported in develop. But still, you can go back to library module and use the quick develop options instead of using the develop module. So you can't do everything that you can do with photographs, but there's still quite a lot of option, especially if you click on this arrow here, then you will see all the options that you can use on videos. So you can use exposure, contrast, whites and blacks, and vibrance. So that's quite a lot of options, and using these arrows you can add minor changes or you can add more major changes to them, and you can repeat these steps as many times as you want. So let's just have a look at this. I'm going to increase the exposure of this image and reduce the whites a little bit on the highlight clipping. It's already much better, and we can maybe even increase the exposure a little bit more, something like that. Reduce the whites even more. Maybe we can change the blacks a bit as well, and then we can increase the vibrance of the video just to pump up the colors, something like that. But that's not all, because we can also click on this icon here and then we drag this beginning part further to the right, something like there. That's the trim in the beginning, and then we can also check at the end. There's also a part here which I don't need, so I can trim that part out as well. So trimming and changing basic details like exposure, contrast, vibrance, whites and blacks are all available. Plus you can even change the white balance. If you click on this arrow here, you will have access to the temperature and tint as well. And I think that's quite impressive for an application which is essentially for editing photographs. And last but not least, another feature which can save you a lot of time is the book module. If you ever have to create a photo album from your photographs, you can do that straight from Lightroom by just creating a collection of the photos that you would like to use, which you can do here in the library module on the left. Just simply click on this plus icon, create a collection, and just drag and drop the images onto the collection, whichever you want to have in your photo book. And then once they are all selected, you can click on the book module here on the top, and then you will be able to set up the way you want the layout to be. So you can always select an image and move it around on the paper. You can change its zoom ratio, you can focus on a specific part of the image, and you can do this with every page. So you can go from the cover to the first page, or you can also see them in a multi-page view like this. And you can add text and make a lot of changes here on the right. You can see that text, type, background, and most importantly, we can export this into a PDF. So we can export the book into a PDF. You can see that option here on the left. Or also send the book to Blurb, which is an online photo book printing company, and you can see an estimated price as well, and choose the size, the cover, paper type, logo type, and so many other things as well here. So that is a very streamlined workflow if you ever have to create photo books directly from Lightroom. And that was the last of the top 10 reasons why to use Lightroom. I hope you found this useful, and I hope you are interested to try out Lightroom if you haven't tried it before. Thanks a lot for your attention, and see you next time here on Tuts Plus.